Hey, happy Friday. If you are watching, raise your hand if you didn't even know it was Friday until I said that. Just kidding. It's kind of a weird Friday for a lot of us. We are probably, our Fridays don't look that different than our weekends. Again, there I am touching my face. Right now because we're at home. We're at home working. We're at home with our kids, schooling our kids. So for me, I think it's really important to still differentiate between the weekends and the weekdays. And there's a great time management expert. I am not a time management expert, so let me just say that. But there's a great time management expert whose name is Laura Vanderkamp, and she talks about three things that make great weekends. And those three components are doing physical activity, so some sort of exercise. So that's the first one. Doing some sort of spiritual volunteering, something that kind of fills you up. So maybe that's listening to a podcast, maybe that's live streaming at church. Hello, I can't see your names unless you guys register with StreamYard. So register with StreamYard so that I can see who's saying hi. So something that fills you up from a spiritual standpoint. And then the third component that makes up a great weekend is socializing. And so I think it's really important that these things are going to be harder to do now than they were 3 weeks ago, but that doesn't mean we can't do them. So I want to encourage you, if you are watching, to really take some time to differentiate your weekend and be intentional about how you can do those three elements: the physical activity, the socializing, and the spiritual sense on your weekend, while maintaining social distancing. So maybe you set up a Zoom dinner date with your friends or a virtual game night with your friends, but something where you're getting that sense of socialization outside just your general family unit. Maybe it's FaceTiming with some other family members. There's other ways that we can connect socially and engage. Again, finding ways to get outside, to move your body while maintaining social distance. And then what can you do in terms of listening to a podcast, maybe doing a meditation, maybe doing some prayer, something that fills you up spiritually to still have a good weekend, to reset you for the week ahead. And one thing that I have said that I will continue to say is that this is not a sprint. This is going to be a marathon. So we don't know if that marathon looks like 3 weeks. We don't know if it looks like 3 months. We don't know if it looks beyond that. But every week is going to feel like a month. Every month is going to feel like a year. And so if you aren't being intentional about how you are showing up during this time, the time is going to feel, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder than it needs to be. Let me just say it that way. So those are some tips for planning for the weekend. But what I really want to talk today is the 4 things. I put 3 in the comments, and then I couldn't figure out how to change it, but 4 decisions that every business owner needs to be thinking about related to their business right now. So my sense, and I don't have a crystal ball, I've never been through this before, but this is my best sense of really 4 phases that are going to happen. So the first phase is what we've recently experienced, which is this phase of shock, this phase of fear, this phase of panic, this, oh my gosh, what is happening? And so the decision is, how are you going to operate your business during this acute phase that we are experiencing right now? I don't know how long this is going to last. I have the sense that we're actually starting to move past that, and that next week we'll be out of that phase. So a lot of decisions for business owners have already been made. Are my employees working remotely? Am I maintaining my full staffing levels? Do I need to lay people off so they can get unemployment? How am I reaching out to my existing customers? How am I changing what I'm offering? So those were some decisions that needed to be made in that acute phase, right? Are there expenses that I need to be cutting? My sense is that what we're going to be moving into either next week or the week after that is settling into this temporary normal, that we've made a lot of decisions, a lot of things have been decided for us, that, okay, now we're doing it. We're getting into that marathon portion of the event where we don't have that whole adrenaline that happened at the start. And we're just kind of settling into, okay, this is what it is now. And so to think about, as we settle into that new normal, how are you going to maintain consistency in your business? How are you going to continue to show up and serve? Some questions that I want you to be thinking about as it relates to that in terms of planning for your business is, thinking about it from a 90-day standpoint. Not that we know that this is going to last 90 days. It could last more than 90 days. It could last less than 90 days. But 90 days to me is a good planning framework. I think sometimes we try to plan on a week-to-week basis, and then it's a little bit like weighing yourself every hour, where it's like, whoa, oh, yay. And it's really not telling a true story. So 90-day plans are great for times like what we're heading into, because it gives us enough sense to develop some momentum, to develop some strategies, to develop some and execute on those strategies, and then get feedback on how those things are working and make adjustments. So the number one thing I want every business owner thinking about as it relates to this settling into the temporary normal is, what does your 90-day revenue plan look like? So partly that's going to be deciding how much revenue do you need on the low end just to keep things from a crisis mode in your business. What is that number? How much revenue do you need to generate? And then from that, you can set a stretch goal of how much money you'd like to generate during this time. But then you can start solving the question of, how are you going to generate that revenue? What offers do you need to be making? How do you need to be reaching out to people? How do you need to be supporting your team? But first, what I want you to do is think about, what is that 90-day revenue number looking like? So when you move out of that shock and panic and acute phase, okay, moving forward for the next 90 days, given that there's still going to be a lot of uncertainty, given that there are going to be a lot of things that aren't within my control, that's going to be regulated by the government, by what's best for society, what do I need to generate in terms of revenue? And then also from that, not just the revenue goal, but what do I need to actually have from that in terms of profits and income? So I might be generating a certain amount of revenue and it might be less. So where do I need to adjust my outputs from that? Here's what I want to say. If you have the capital and if you can stomach it, when people are panicking and pulling back, that is the best time to put more investment into your business. You want to be smart about this. This isn't just let's play a game of Russian roulette and throw everything we have in the business right now. You still want to be making strategic decisions, but I don't think every business needs to cut expenses right now. For some business, hiring might make more sense. For some businesses, putting more money in advertising might make more sense. There are more eyeballs on the internet than there have ever been before, right? So thinking about, where are the opportunities in the next 90 days? So what is that revenue goal? And then what are the things that you need to be doing as a business owner to hit that revenue goal? And are there opportunities and places where you need to be increasing your investment? And then on the other end, places where you need to be decreasing investments. So thinking through those questions and making those decisions are going to give you a lot of power. I guess that's not the right word, but what I'm trying to say is going to give you a sense of feeling proactive and a sense of being mindful and intentional about how these next 90 days look in your business. You can set the stage for that by planning for the next 90 days. So just saying, based on the information I have today, based on the environment we are in today, this is what my revenue goal is. This is where the opportunities are. This is how I'm going to hit that revenue goal. Where do I need to make more investments? Where do I need to make less investments? And from that, you have a short-term working 90-day plan. Within that, I also want you thinking about, what are the most critical action steps that are going to be your success factors in the first 90 days? Is it maintaining your existing customers? How are you doing that? Is it following up on leads that were in your pipeline or people you were having conversations with before this happened? Is it somehow generating new leads, right? Is it making a completely different offer? So think through, what are the things that are going to set you up for success in the next 90 days, and start taking action on those. Set yourself some goals. So what I've been doing in my business is, I'm calling it Connect 5, where every day I'm connecting with 5 people. That can be a mix of personal, business, leads, but really mixing up and being intentional about creating those connections, continuing to maintain those connections. That is one of the success factors in my business. One of the other things I'm doing is showing up more and with more free content for business owners about, how are you going to get through this time frame? What are the appropriate sales strategies? What are some good ways to message your business? How can you be reaching out to your customers right now, right? This is what I'm doing right now is one of the things that I've identified that's going to help me through this next 90 days to continue to grow and move forward. So what are those things in your business? Put them on paper so that you can measure them and see how successful you're being. So we've talked about this acute phase. We've talked about the temporary normal phase, that 90-day phase of thinking about what's the next 90 days look like. You can make adjustments in that as you get information, right? So it might end up being a 120-day plan. It might end up being a 30-day plan. Start by planning for 90. Thanks, Chelsea. It's good to see you. So the next thing I want to think about is as we move past this new normal, what's going to happen is at some point we are going to get this all clear, this reemergence of business as it's not going to be what it was before. So this is what I'm saying. There's going to be this reemergent phase. And this reemergent phase is actually, although it's going to feel good and there's going to be a lot of freedom in it and a lot of excitement, and people are going to be so excited to go to networking events. People are going to be so excited to see their colleagues in person. People are going to be so excited to go to a dinner party with their friends. Maybe that's just me, but there's going to be a lot of kind of excitement and adrenaline around this reemergent period. This reemergence period is going to be an acute period. Again, it's going to be anywhere from, 7 to 21 days where people, your customers and other businesses are going to kind of have this like energy, like, oh my gosh, everything's like, we can do things again. And there's going to be a flurry of activity. So think strategically right now, what does that look like for your customers? And what are the tools and systems that you need to be in place to maximize that? So an example that I use for this is if you're a hairstylist, if you're a massage therapist, if you're a dentist, you are going to have so much pent up demand for your services that when we get the all clear, the phones are going to be ringing off the hook. And you're going to have this problem now of going from 0 to 120 miles an hour. So what are the systems and tools that you need to be have in place that you can put in place now so that you don't lose customers? Because the last thing you want to do is be so overwhelmed that your system shut down and then your customers get frustrated and they go to another vendor during that time. You spent a lot of time cultivating these relationships. Don't lose them at this time when there's going to be so much pent up demand. I think we're going to all have to give each other grace in this, but there is going to be a period of going from like really, really slow to, oh my gosh, I can get my teeth cleaned. Oh my gosh, I can get my eyebrows waxed. Like I was just plucking my eyebrows today and thinking about, okay, I need to be making an appointment with my hairstylist now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep that appointment, but I'd like to have it on the books. So a lot of service providers and vendors, there's going to be that pent up demand in that acute reemergence phase. Be thinking about what that looks like in your business and make some decisions about how you can prepare and plan and prep for that now. So we've talked about the first 3 phases. We had our acute panic and fear phase, which we have been in, I think, for at least the last 10 days, maybe a little bit shorter, maybe a little bit longer, depending on where you're located and how things kind of unfolded. We are going to move, my guess is kind of into next week and the week after that, into kind of a settling into this temporary normal. Okay, we've all got our Zoom account set up. We've all got, a little bit of a work from home routine. Our kids are set up. I don't have kids, but your kids are set up on their online learning platform that they maybe have now. So you want to plan for that through a 90-day strategic revenue plan. And then the third phase is going to be that reemergence, that acute period where there's going to be pent up demand. And then the fourth phase is going to be settling into a new normal. This, in my opinion, is actually the hardest thing to plan for and make decisions around because we don't know what that new normal is going to look like. We know based on history and based on trends, we are not returning to the world that we had 6 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago. The world is going to look different in positive ways and in challenging ways, that because people have been forced to make rapid adjustments in the way that they deliver products and the services, in the way they communicate with each other, in the way that they interact and entertain themselves. Because of that, there are going to be some things that naturally shift. I think there's definitely going to be a trend towards spending more quality time with our family members. I think for me, I know like, oh my gosh, I actually am really enjoying not going out 3 or 4 times a week. So how can I still continue to support restaurants, but I'm enjoying this time of cooking in the evenings with Alex? So that's going to be something that I want to hold on to. We are also taking probably an hour to a 2-hour long walk every night with Harley. I might not be able to maintain that 2 hours, right? Because I have more evening commitments in terms of networking events, travel for clients. But there are going to be things that all of us collectively are going to want to adapt as a result of what we've experienced, both in the acute phase and in the settling of the new normal. So just be starting to think about, if I was going to create an 18-month plan for my business, recognizing these phases, what's my best guess on how our new normal is going to shape the way that I interact with my customers and my clients, what their problems are, what their desires are? And based on that, what changes do I need to be making to the strategic plan that I had in place 6 months ago? And this is where we can start making some tweaks, but start making those decisions now. Because if you can get in front of it, if you can get in front of this, sorry, someone's signing into my Zoom account. Okay. So if you can get in front of these questions now, you are going to be a step ahead. And what I really want to see is for people to say, I am prepared for these phases in my business. I have a plan. The plan might not be perfect. I might need to adjust the plan, but I have a plan in place that I can start executing, versus always feeling like you're a step behind or a month behind, where you're trying to build out the plan while you're executing. If you can put some of these planning pieces in place and make some of these decisions about how do you want to make adjustments in your business in all of these phases now, you are going to be well positioned to actually be serving clients at your full capacity as quickly as possible. And that's really the goal from making these decisions now, is that if you can make these decisions in advance, if you can plan for them, if you can think about, are there new resources that we need to adopt for this new normal? Are there new staffing needs that we have based on this new normal? Are there new ways that we want to interact with our customers when we get to the new normal? If you can start putting those pieces in place, and once we get through that reemergence period, you're already executing versus thinking about them, you are going to be ahead of the competition. You're going to be ahead of the people that you're competing with, which is going to set you up for success in the long term. And we never want to make long-term decisions based on short-term panic, but short-term realities do affect our businesses, which is why it's important to make decisions and think about each of these decisions based on each phase of what we're going to experience. So let me know how I can support you. Again, I want to kind of just recap what I talked about today is kind of planning for each, making decisions around each of these phases, the initial panic phase, then settling into this new normal, and then the reemergence phase of your business, and then really that long-term new normal. So I meant to say temporary normal is the second one. So thinking about what decisions do you need to make for each phases of those realities in your business. And then also to recap, if you joined in late, it's Friday. Yay, Friday. And I think now with more people being home, it's really important to create some differentiation between the work week and the weekends still. And I was sharing from Laura Vanderkamp. She had shared 3 things that make a great weekend are doing at least one thing of physical exercise, one thing related to spirituality, whether that's volunteering. It doesn't have to be going to church. It can be a meditation. It can be calling a friend. And then something that's social, and figuring out how can you do those things this weekend, given the temporary normal that we're in, but to still make time for those things to help you have a great weekend and recharge for the week ahead, because next week is coming. We're going to continue in this marathon and continue moving forward. But have a great weekend. And thank you for being here this week. I'm going to keep showing up right around 10 o'clock, give or take, every day next week. So if you have specific questions or areas that you want me to talk about as it relates to how do you continue to maintain and potentially grow your business during this specific time that we're in, shoot me a message and I will address that on the Facebook Lives. I am here to support you, so please let me know how I can do so. And have a great rest of the day and happy Friday.